Like we are here for the employability session, and Akash is from EduNet Foundation, and he is an expert and he has guided so many students regarding employability skills. So he will be taking the session for the employability skills of all the students of Educate to Employ, and he will give one insights on so many things which will be useful for your future career growth. So, without further delay, I would like to hand over to you, Agus, and thank you so much for taking this session.
Thank you, Danish, for an introduction like that. So, good evening, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well. So, I welcome a warm welcome to everybody who has been present here in this session, right? So, I'm pretty sure all of you all are, you know, like a chosen bunch of, youth to create a difference in the path that you have chosen, right? So just to ask you guys, is my voice coming out audible? Is everybody able to hear me? So if you can hear and if you can hear me well, if there's any disturbance or anything, please do let me know. Use your thumbs up reactions like this to communicate. So I hope it's clear that way. Great. Thank you so much. And inspiring and things that are going to change. And who else should I discuss it with except the change makers who are going to do something, who are planning to do great things in life. So whoever is our own idea of success. Some of you may be lost, some of you might think, oh, fine, oh, I'm doing all of this, but everything seems little. I feel like I'm left behind in the race, and I feel like I'm a little confused. I feel like I'm a little stressed. What can I do? I'm sure everybody has had this question at least once when you sat to study or once when you took your important presentation. Have you ever thought or asked this question in your mind? Give me a thumbs up if you did. And I know everybody has asked that question to oneself at least once in their life, right? So, me as a student, when I was doing engineering, I had the same similar doubts. I had the same similar questions. And sometimes life can be so tricky, life can be so full of surprises that sometimes we feel that even now, because we are in that sort of a world where it's constantly evolving at this point. See, when I was a student, the evolution that, if we talk about evolution, the one thing that we used to remember growing up is the Big Bang Theory, the dinosaurs, the Stone Age, the age of fire, the age of wheel, and how we took forward and we were doing with games. But now the same word evolution, that has gotten a different spin by itself. Now when we talk about evolution, we talk about what the future is going to be, because now it's nothing like the Stone Age, neo humans, Neanderthals, or anything like that. Now it's machines, now it's AI, now it's data science, now it's uh, digital footprints, now it is coding, now it's machine learning, now it's cloud computing, regressions, algorithms, flowcharts. We're talking about those things now. And when we do talk about things like this, honestly, everybody would feel a little overwhelmed, and everybody would have that fear of what is going to happen later for me, or what is waiting. So if you ever feel that way, I think these classes are a great start for you to get started, for sure, right? So of course, we might have some three classes, we might have some two class, or this might be the first time that you are even meeting me, and you might ask yourself, um, how is this few hours of interaction going to change my future? And if you feel like, and you might be shocked, why is this person saying like this? See, the only real change makers that can actually bring change or something new, something great is ourselves. For me, for my life, it is me. For your life, it is you. For his life, it is him. For her life, it is hers. So the real change makers are oneself. And I'm not trying to quote some random Instagram quote or random quote that was in a classmate notebook, but change requires actions. You all agree? Yeah. So change requires action, and action is something that we do. Right? We live by words. We tell ourselves in our mind things like, "Oh, I'll do this. I'll become great. I'll do that. I'll do this." But everybody knows when you say that, it feels good. There is some sort of energy, but the only change happens when uh, we actually try to move. Right? So somewhere, now I'll try to quote an Instagram, quote somewhere like, I was feeling bad about my mental health, so I started to jog and started to run and channel my energy so that my mental health feels better. When I started to run, I realized not only my mental health is bad, but my physical health is bad too. Right? This I read it on Instagram, and I was like, wow, this is so funny and true at the same time. Then I realized, yes, it's not just about the words, it's not just about the quotes on Instagram, but it's just simple as actions that we take. See, I'm a teacher, I'm a trainer, I am an expert of a certain subject where I train on soft skills, and today I'll be training you on soft skills, right? Um, I'm just that person, right? So I can help you where to get started. I can help you what are the things that are waiting. I can help you what are the industry expectations. I can tell you how to have the tenant. I can make you prepare for that. But at least everybody is aware that, okay, if I have to start somewhere, I need to develop that environment, and that's the environment that we are creating today, and that's the environment that we're talking about today. Because you can see, right, usually when people try to finish their work, or usually when people try to wrap their college works, everybody here in this call, directly or indirectly, chose to choose a new beginning to do something, right? That itself is a great change that you guys decided, and I think great things are going to start now with that mindset. Now, if I even have to build that actionable steps and action mindsets, correct, even if I have to build that, um, I need to start thinking about it. I need to start believing in those things, right? So I'm not doing that, or I'm not saying, or I'm not believing that, uh, uh, or I'm not saying that, oh, if I believe everything is going to change. No, right? I believe in God too, but that doesn't mean I'll put all my work aside, go sit in front of the puja room, stop working and start praying, everything is going. If words really mattered that way, and intentions really mattered that way, everybody's life would have been simple. They should have gotten some good comfortable seat in front of puja home, and they should have sat. But it's really actions, I hate to break it to you, it is really actions that that are going to change. But it's not as scary, it's not as difficult, or it's not as boring, or it's not as scary as you would imagine it would be, because I also thought it would be something. But if we actually start somewhere, if we actually start something somewhere with a positive intention, with an intention of growth, with an intention of a positive change, right, I can assure you it starts from there. And you have to go full on, okay? You have to be brutally optimistic. because um, now the things are new and now the things are like very different, and people are worried about survival the most. And when people are in that survival mode, fires of their emotions, or you might get crossfire, you might get caught in the crossfires of their bad decisions, right? So that's a fragilistic environment we are in. So it is very easy for anybody to be negative, and it is very easy for anybody to think that it may not work out this way, right? So at this point I want everybody to not just think that oh ye ठीक होगा, nahi, like you are supposed to use this power of energy, of this power of good intentions as a weapon, because that is the kind of environment sometimes we will be at. So have that mindset. If you have to bring a change, first start believing in yourself that it is possible. Okay, rest everything is technical aspects, rest everything is timetables, rest everything is discipline. And we're not even talking about motivation or anything. This is as simple as that. Okay, so that is something that we will be learning, and we will be demonstrating a great self awareness of what is required and how do we sound, how do we be ready, even if we are starting our own job, even if we are starting our own YouTube account, or even if you are trying to start a new business, a startup, or even if we are trying to bring change in our own beautiful definitions, we need to be prepared, and that is something that I can help you guys with today. And we need to exhibit professional behavior and a positive work attitude, because energy is everything, right? Now if I had started this class with a low energy or with a negative energy, I am sure none of you would have even started to listen. Now everybody is listening, everybody's paying attention. It's because of the positive energy that I spread. May I do not mind if not everybody believes in me, but when I try to say it with a good intention, everything seems authentic, everything seems real, and that's how our human nervous system also works. So when we hear something positive, there's a different way that these million neurons in our body react, right? So if I know that there is a sort of reaction through words, and I know that words have power, even plants are being influenced by good words, that. So why should I choose a negative mind? So having that positive work attitude is important, because this energy is spread to others, and that is the kind of people will be looking forward to. Okay, and you should apply your communication, your teamwork in practical scenarios, right? So that is also very important, and you need to analyze your personal blind spots, as in things that are not very visible, things that you think that you're very good at, but that might be still an area of development that is still for you, but your brain is not satisfied your ego that way, but saying everything's going to be okay. No, you're going to do it, you're going to manage it. So we need to be careful about those kind of lies that sometimes our mind can tell us. So we need to stay hungry, stay foolish, right? That's what Steve Jobs has said, right? Stay hungry, stay foolish, right? That is going to get you everything that you want. And adapt to a better workplace expectation. These are some of the learning expectations that you guys can um, expect for you to get and have, right? So these are some of the things that I already told, and that that I'll be discussing with you. And whether it is an interview or an online presence, we'll be discussing about all of that. Okay, so I have told you what you can expect in the class, and but at the same time I just don't want to tell what you can expect from me and what I'll be telling or what content I'll just be showing. But I would like to take it to the next step by asking you guys that, apart from whatever what that we are going to discuss, is there anything that I can answer your questions with? Like, what are your primary questions, right? So what are some of the biggest questions that you've not found answers to? What are some of the questions or thoughts or doubts, or sometimes your intrusive thoughts that would scare when you try to start something? So whatever question you have apart from what I discussed and told so far, right? So apart from those questions, do you have any other questions, so that I make sure that I do not miss those questions? I make sure that I acknowledge and make sure that question is being responded with, right? So if you have those questions, I would want you all to write that in the chat so that I don't miss it. So what all questions you have, or what is one thing that you want to overcome or learn, or uh, even develop through these classes that you wish to do? So I want you to add those questions in the chat, right? But if you would like to tell it, keep it simple, just use 3 to 5 seconds and just tell, unmuting your audio also by raising your hand. I think I can, that also is more effective and possible that way, right? So if you do you have any questions that way before we get started? So anybody has any questions that way, right? So you can raise your hand in the raise option, right? So I would be notified of who would be raising, and I would ask you guys. So if you have any questions that way. So apart from these things, right? So if you have any question or those things come to your mind, I want you to add it here in the chat. Okay. So do you have any questions or concerns, right? Or do you have any expectations from these class, like, so that I can fulfill those expectations? So do you have any expectations like that? So if you do have certain expectation like that, can you guys give a thumbs up if there is? Hmm? Okay, so if you do have questions like that, why don't you unmute and ask me that question, or just add that question in the chat? Okay, so go ahead and add that, and don't try to uh, like waste time with trying to find the right words. Be honest, be blunt, be short and concise with whatever you would like to ask, so that you don't waste time on, oh, what word should I use, or should I do it or not, what would others think, should I be the only person? No, don't think any of that. So if you have any questions, shoot it straight away. But if you don't have any questions and we can move forward, you can respond with a thumbs up again, right? So if you don't have any questions and if you're excited to see what is waiting for you and you're looking forward for it, so you can give a thumbs up that way as well. Great, nice. So that's about this. So what? Yeah. So somebody asked, getting trained with organization and securing best job, for sure. So this, I think, I told and I already discussed that we will be talking about. So for sure we will be talking about these things, right? So if you have any other questions, you can go ahead and tell it. Yeah, but I think everybody has gotten a rough idea of what we will be talking about today. Okay. So what do companies expect from freshers or people who are students? Okay. Yes. So now, okay, now I think somebody asked a question. Now everybody's coming out of their shy zone and finally, asking their good, genuine questions. Now I like it. Fine, good. So keep go ahead and shooting your questions this way. I'll make sure, none of your questions go unanswered. Yes. So Shabina Khan says, which skill would make a fresher more employable? Okay, okay, it's a good valid question. Someone has a, okay, Sri Nikita has a confusion of choosing higher studies or a job. Correct. So that is also right. Good question. What opportunities are there for learning and development? Learning and development, there are a lot of options. We'll discuss that. What are the most important skills we should focus on as a beginner? Great. I'm in MBA finance, so which skill I have to upgrade? Okay, so I would talk about that as well. So I think so. Let's try to go from reverse to the top. So if you're an MBA, if you're in MBA finance and you'd like to, upskill, there are lots of upskilling opportunities for you, right? Firstly, if you're asking me like which skill you would like to upgrade, any skill, would be useful. And more importantly, most of the people ask one question: which skill should I um, improve so that I am more employable, like one of your friend asked, or which is the best skill to have, which skill pays the most salary, which is the most useful. I've been asked these questions at least 1,000 times in my career. Okay, so now I will talk about that because that is the most asked and what is the most requested question. Okay, so when people ask me that, I would say that is not the question you should ask, right? That is not the question you should ask. The question you need to ask should be better. What do I mean by that? Now we are like, sir, you just asked, you just told, ask question. I finally asked some question which I thought is important, and now we are totally disregarding that question. You might think, but there's a reason why I said that is because it's not about what skill gives you the most money. It's about how skilled are you and how consciously are you trying to learn that skill or trying to want that skill. Okay, see, many people they want answers, but they don't even know if that is the right question that they want the answer for. Many people don't even know what question to write ask. So when, instead of asking which skill has the most scope, or which skill has the most money, or which skill is the best, or anything, I would say, see, all live, the entire world's economy, the entire world's state, and job requirements are not dependent on one skill. People require various amount of skills to have and grow. Okay, but you need to ask, what is the right kind of question you need to ask is, what kind of problem do I enjoy solving? What kind of algorithms do I enjoy plotting? What kind of coding do I feel like I don't feel like working? That is the kind of question you need to ask, because if you like, a skill, or when you learn a skill, if you find that interesting, or if you find, this is a kind of what do you call, problem I love solving, that is where you feel you're not working. That is where you feel you're having fun. So learning seems fun. When learning seems fun, it doesn't seem stressful. And when you start to choose a path which is comfortable for you based on what experiments you did, right? So you would not feel like you're working. Now I found that code. Now I teach and train for a living, right? So I've done other jobs as well, but I chose, I experimented, and I thought, which one do I like the most? I thought teaching, training is something that comes naturally for me, and I feel like, okay, this is something that I did after experimenting on multiple things. So for the people who ask which skill, they need to choose, experiment on skills, because make use of all the free skilling platforms that you have. There are a lot of upskilling platforms where you can get entry level course. Understand it, see the growth of it based on your future and how your brain works and how your mind works. So now what happens is, um, that is where this famous quote, right? So some people have even asked me, sir, is jack of all trades good or master of one is good? Most of the people gravitate towards jack of all trades. Now this is where, I would suggest, it's not about being the jack of all trades. Jack of all trades is enough to make conversation with everybody for some time, or trying to understand what everything is. It is good, but master of one is the ultimate. You know why? Because Bruce Lee has told, I do not fear the man who knows 10 different martial arts. He said, I do not fear the man who knows 10 different martial arts, but I fear the man who knows one martial art in 10 different ways. What does that mean? Becomes so good at one skill, it becomes dangerous. It becomes scary for people to, even compete with you. Becomes so good at any one skill that people cannot ignore you. That is a kind of question you need to ask. What kind of skill do I like? So, in order for that, you cannot hastily generalize. I can tell one skill, maybe that is stimulating my brain and intriguing my brain, and I might like it. You need not like it, right? You may like it or you may not like it, but I will be telling what worked out for me and things, but I cannot give one particular skill like that. So, you need to experiment on different skills like this. Taking up free courses, you need to enjoy and experiment and draw conclusions in a way that which skill works out the best for you. Where do you feel less effort that you're putting? Because for some people they like maths, for some people they like coding, for some people they like creating, for some people they like designing. If I tell one skill, no, one skill can be swimming, one skill can be driving, one skill can be, say, swimming or singing, but that doesn't have to be the same for everybody, right? It'll be like judging a fish's ability to walk, or a giraffe's ability to sprint, I mean, like swim in water effortlessly. So it'll be like that. So I would not like to give any one, but I will definitely tell you some of the basic skills that they would expect you to have. Right? That basic skills will become the bare minimum that everyone should have. That I'll talk about. That everything is required. But if you want to excel in your career, if you want to, become very good at what you do in your career, you need to stick to one skill, right? So do not be indecisive if you think grass is greener everywhere when you stand. Okay, so choose one course by experimenting on multiple topics, right? Which course was more stimulating, more fun to you when you tried doing that? That's how you have to do, right? So that is how I answer most of the questions that were asked here. And then next thing is getting the best job, self awareness, SWOT analysis, I'll talk about that. And then choosing higher studies or job. So firstly, you need to understand that these are the life career choices that you're making, and you need to make it with strong reasons, and not just because I told it, or Danish told it, or somebody told it, or some mama in our family told it. You shouldn't take up decision because somebody told you to do it, right? So you get answers, you get questions from everyone, you get advice from everyone. Take advice from your mama, take advice from me, take advice from Danish, take advice from your teacher, take advice from everybody. Learn what it is, but the final decision, what works out the best for you, you should take. Okay, ask everybody, but do not blindly believe anybody, do not blindly believe me. This is critical thinking. Everybody should understand, everybody should keep their mind open to learn, but they should have their own confirming biases, that they should feel satisfied. It shouldn't be like, when you ask a question at your home, and they don't have answer, like they beat you and tell, chup chap, do it. Our elders told to do it, that's why you should do it. No, don't do that. See, I'm not telling that is bad at their part or anything. They did what was right, but you, being educated students, and critical thinkers, you need to learn from everybody and have your own beliefs after you feel, your gut feel and your confirmation, your research is right. Okay, so higher studies or the job, many people have these questions. So first ask yourself, what is the requirement, what is your priority, what is your needs, right? So when I was buying a bike, okay, I did not buy bike because it looked nice, or somebody told it was nice, or somebody was riding it. That's no. I i went and asked the bike customer care which bike would suit. See, for me, I thought it was Continental GT Cafe Racer. That is a great bike because so filled with swag. It's so cool and it goes in 180 kilometers per hour. Great energy, great torque. And I thought, okay, this was my dream bike. But then I realized, what do I require my bike requirements for? Of course, I would require for my city commutes and city travels, right? And I'm an outgoing adventurous seeker. So I thought I need a bike that can take me anywhere, even when there is no roads also. I think that is amazing, and for long rides. So for everything I decided what was the requirement, then I chose my bike. The same way you need to find out with your studies and your future also. What are your personal requirements? Do you require money? Are you ready for learning and understanding how the job works and start getting confidence to make money? Some people take up higher studies because just because they feel like they're not confident enough to work, but they want to work. So don't do that mistake only because you feel like working and you want to delay it. You're doing this higher studies, don't do it for that. That is waste of money, that is waste of time, and you're delaying your earning process by 2 years. Right now, who requires higher studies are the people who are passionate about what path they have chosen. Now if they feel like, okay, they don't have any difficulties, or their parents can afford, or then they themselves can afford, and they want to specialize on a particular subject, like somebody was in MBA finance, they are they want to emphasize and learn finance, right? So learning fintech would be the promising and great future, because fintech, the finance technology, right? So understanding the tech, how can this tech be involved in the finance transactions, right? So that is a great thing that many people forget. India, there is UPI and everything, but do you know how many countries actually have digital transactions? Right, it's still coming up in many places. I think fintech is a great thing that way. So people who would like to specialize on those particular fields and they want to go deep, I would highly suggest for them to do an MBA, right? But if you feel like, okay, it's ultimately job at the end of the day that you want, and you to gain that industrial experience to even understand how a business works, how a company works, or if you plan to do business of your own, I would suggest the most important thing that is required is to not be afraid to fail, to not be afraid to make mistakes, to not be afraid to start experiencing things from the scratch, right? So those kind of skills you start to get when you go to work. You get an environment, you get that ecosystem of what do you call, time you feel that you're not um, going anywhere, or you feel you're stuck or anything, that feeling you've been feeling every time. But whatever you are feeling right now was a dream life many years ago. You've got a delayed gratification of your dreams that you manifested. The thing is, whatever you wish to get or have, no, you don't get it immediately. You need to work for it. So that's a delayed gratification. That's how life works. So even with this, if you feel like you're not getting any answers, or if you feel like you're not getting any satisfaction with whatever you're doing, understand that that happens because you're constantly trying to improve your bar, improve your standard. You're always trying to keep it high, that you forgot that you have come a great way so far. So be proud of yourself for that first. Okay, and then now talk practical. What can you do? So now I have to list down skills. I have to experiment on those things. I have to become strong at one thing, right? So that is good. That is always there. And then what other questions? What are our most important skills? Okay, that is also I'll be telling. What opportunities are there for L&D? For if you are into L&D, I would suggest learn this natural NLP course, that is neuro linguistic programming certification, that is directed to neuroscience and how humans think and how humans work. So I think in that way, if you try to understand how humans behave, humans work, that's a great opportunity for you to improve your skill that way. And then you can become a personality development trainer, psychologist. Then you can mainly become a trainer, teacher, guest lectures, or choose one topic that you would like to do and go professional on that. So that is there. And then what is one of the most important skills? Okay, that is done. MBA, which skill I have to upgrade? I think we talked about it. Confused where to start to get into job. So start by um, first spending at least 2 hours every day to research on your future. Okay, so start from there, start setting intentions, and start finding out habits that are stopping you from getting started with any new hobby. Figure out what are some of your daily activities that is stopping you, or daily which part of what you do is consuming the most time, right? So try to put that aside and try to give side for your future, because if you work for your future today, your future will be secure. If you don't work today, your future, and even after that, you'll forever be working. So try to start with that, and then figure out what is something that you like. List down your strengths, list down your weakness, list down what opportunities you have and what dreams you have. So in order for you to achieve that dream, what is the skill gap that you require, all that, by taking self assessments and SWOT analysis, you'll be able to find out. Start from there. After that, start learning, right? So once you start learning, you learn so much that you remove the L from it and you start earning. Okay, so start from there, and then start try to figure out what your strengths and skills are, and then focus on that strength and skill. Constantly dedicate your time to upskill. You'll be there, you'll be getting. Okay, so I'll be giving you some basic set of skills that everybody should have, that you do, but specialize on one learning. Okay, choose what you like to do. And then which school skills and tools I need to, okay, that I already discussed. How can we prove our skills in this AI world? Amazing question. And then how can AI be effective and useful in jobs nowadays? Okay, I'll talk about that also. Can AI take over jobs in cyber security? Not really, because these are some of the courses: cybersecurity, data science, and AI. I think data science, it's going somewhere, with its work, and it's, going great. There are many data scientists who are making great fortune in their, current studies. That is good, right? With cybersecurity, I think the more AI is coming up, the more privacy lessons and the more important it has become for all of us to, secure our data and be mindful about it. So I don't think AI can take over cybersecurity jobs. uh, People who know how to use AI in cybersecurity, I think they might take over your job if you don't upskill. That is the answer, right? And then, is data analyst still a better career path in 2026? Okay, again, it depends upon how much you know about data science. If you are keeping entry level certification and you're doing the bare minimum that every engineer is doing, only that much, if you keep, it might uh, like what you might have to start your career from there. So I would say, get very good at data science, so that that you can stay on par and competitive with the people who are making good money in data science and who have secured great data. So now data is, I know everybody everywhere, data is pretty uh, easy accessible everywhere, but knowing how to handle it well will definitely still be relevant. So it's the data science is not irrelevant now, so it is a great place for you to start work. So data science, you can still choose, but try to have one more skill along with it, like AI and things like that, that also you would have. Full stack development is still a best career path in current situation. It is not the best, because node skill is the best now. Now it's like pillar fundamentals, like AI, data science, and things like this. So development is required everywhere, right? But I think now with the AI, what I'm hearing from everybody is it is still month one of how AI is revolutionizing things, and it is increasing its own capabilities. So it's still month one. So developers still are required. They are training machine models, of course, but in order to train also we need more, human resource for that. So full stack development is still a good course, right? I wouldn't call any course best course like that. Full stack development is a good, course, so it is a great place for you to get started. AIML is the best career in our feature jobs. What feature or future? What were you trying to say? AIML is the best career. AIML is a, like a basic career now, right? So what you do with AIML and how strong you are at it makes you the best in it. Okay. So I think I answered all of your questions. So if you found answers for your questions, give me a thumbs up, right? So if I missed any of these questions, raise your hand or let me know or repeat it, right? But I will answer these questions in a much deeper sense as we go. Okay. So now let us go about what are some of the basic things that companies expect from the freshers. Okay, first thing, okay, technical skills. Of course, now everything is technical. People are requiring codes, right? There are companies where people have told that okay, you need to upskill and you need to, have good AI skills to, train machines, train models, train things so that our works can, get easier, and future, we can focus on something much more productive or much more better, so the works other things can, do by themselves. So technical skills, whether it is data science, AI, full stack development, website development, graphic design, whatever technical skills that, you hone to possess, that is very much important. So companies will expect a certain technical skills from you now. Earlier it was not necessary, people were having sales and things, but now it is necessary. Everybody needs to, have some technical skills. Then soft skills, right? Soft skills are some of the things that doesn't require let's say a hardware or, additional technical things to, learn. It is a much softer approach, and, which doesn't require an additional stimuli, right? So you can learn skills. When I say soft skills, I mean communication, public speaking, leadership skills, then decision making skills, creative thinking, critical thinking, and whatnot. So these are some of the skills that come under soft skills, right? And one of the major skills that everybody expect you to have is problem solving. Problem solving comes under soft skills. So the way you solve a problem, the way you, tell or, like what, come to a conclusion of anything, that is very much required there. Okay. And then professional attitude. Okay, you need to have a very professional attitude, because now, I'll tell you, now I have, come for this call and everybody is listening to me, and, with my communication, not just my communication, with the way I look and the energy that I bring and the kind of talks we do, a professional, aura is set, right? Now imagine if I'd come here with, let's say a t-shirt, fully printed t-shirt, and, with a very messy hair, and, ungroomed beard, and start talking, nobody would have listened to it. Sometimes, you would have had your own experiences when you were in traffic or something, you get caught probably not wearing helmet or jumping a signal by mistake or anything. That day if you had worn, shorts and sandals, and you knew you were, but when you were in a very professional attire, you would have even had confidence to deal with it. And when they look at it, okay, this person looks professional, they would have had difference will be there. So professional things make a change, because people respect professionalism, because professionalism means trust. I'm not telling you can trust every professional, but at the same time, when somebody is not professional, you still don't find, reasons to trust them as much as you do when you see a person with good formal attire. Now, why these rules are there? Why conduct is there, sir? Rules are meant to be broken and everything. Those are for the change makers, okay? Not everybody, okay? I'll tell you why also. Because people don't know the depth of that code. Rules are for, change break. It is, how, like, one person, has done everything to change things in this world, and he like what he tries to, break trends, try to create that sense. It's different. but many people just just sound that quote sounds fun and fine, they are doing this breaking rules unnecessarily. It's not for them. Now why rules are there, it is to show equality. Now when you go for, when you finish your college, when you finish your things, you start going to work, why everybody needs to have that professional etiquette is wearing good formal clothes, brushing your hair, grooming your face, and talking to somebody respect. Now this is equality, if you ask me, because everybody feels the same. Now why schools have uniform? Now there things might say they come from here, they come from a different background, they are this, they are that, but when you wear the uniform, you are a student of that class, you are equal. So that's the rules were meant to show that sense of equality, so people expect you to resonate with their energy, and that if everybody is maintaining that professional attitude, so people expect you to have it. So that is a bare minimum and a workplace behavior. So I was just talking about it, right? So I think these are some of the things that people would expect from everybody. Soft skills, problem solving is important, communication is important, and then yeah, these are the main two: the communication, problem solving, very important. Okay, technical skills are there. To back those technical skills up, you need these two skills. Now, with respect to technical skills, right, you need to have the basic subject knowledge, whatever your technical trainers try to train you, right? So those basics knowledge and sense you need to have. And then how can I use these skills to practically solve problems in my life? Now if you are a person who paid somebody for your final engineering project, or you somehow asked your other friends to do it, somehow you faked it and you um, got out of it, and somehow you made it. So if you feel like you are one of those people, ask yourself once again, because um, you need to use those skills in real life. Why people do project now, why do they ask, tell me about the number of projects so you did, tell me the number of project works you finished and did or completed? Why they ask is because in project you'll solve a problem, so they'll check your problem solving skills, and how can you use this problem solving skills knowledge to their company. Now that is why you need to solve those projects with utmost honesty. When you don't have work experience, right, your problem solving experience and your project making experience, that is something that you can use as a leverage for you to get a job. So if that is not there, it might be difficult. So start trying to understand why this skill, how can I use that in my real life? That should be a strong why, right? So next, problem solving ability, yeah, I was just talking about it. And then understanding the tools and technology, right? So basic tools, right? So how whether Python or ML or deep learning, now these things become as tools. You need to understand the potential of these things and where it can take. So based on that, you need to choose your tools smartly that way. And then soft skills, I was telling communication skills, teamwork, listening skills, clarity of thought. And most importantly, of course, problem solving is also soft skill. But apart from that, you need to have communication, knowing how to work well with teams, and then listening skills, because listening skills come under communication. But even though I've separated it and tell it, the reason is because now if I'm speaking well, if I'm talking well, it is not because I always used to speak. It is not because if you speak you can become a great speaker, not just the only thing. It's also because you should be a great listener. Communication, listening is 70%, speaking is 30%. Okay, so if I'm a good reader, then only I can be a good leader, because leader reads people, reads not just books, reads people, reads environment, reads situation, reads his thoughts, right? So understanding and listening can also come under that. So that clarity of thought is required, not believing in anything directly or not choosing a side, right? Now I come and talk about the basic human rights that we need to have. Okay, some people might think, okay, I'm condemning the current government I'm in, that means I'm the opposition party. Now just because I'm talking and telling about this opposition party about something, they think, oh, you are this party. No, you're not any of those sides. Clarity of thought is trying to see the difference between both and see what is required, like ideas, values, thoughts, right? So not believing in any, but seeing through things and trying to have your own opinion based on that. So that is clarity of thought. So people expect you to have it. People don't like people who are indecisive, people who can't decide on certain thing, right? So people want people who stick to their judgment and stay by it. Then professional attitude, you need to be punctual, you need to punctual. Now people, when I say punctual, you might think, ah, some boring thing. No, people want that. If you trust anybody, ask yourself, who do you trust the most? When you think about who do you trust the most, I think they are punctual. It is not. And don't judge your judgments based on few people you met in college for couple of years. No, they are also playing a role of an engineering student there. When it comes to their life, when it comes to their things, they stick to what they want. I've had a lot of friends who said they're very good friends in my college. Today none of them are there. Okay, some of them are asking me only jobs, the same people who made fun of me. That's a different story. But whoa, the friendships that you make here, it's not just that. But when you think truly about somebody who you can trust the most, if you ask something for them, they respect your time. They respect your time. And when they respect your time, when they respect your energy, when they respect your flow, that is when you feel like trusting them. Now, don't you think that is their values are being punctual to your opinions? So punctuality matters. Punctuality is not just something like, oh, you need to do this, somebody has told it in some chart, I have to know. That is basic way of living. So you need to be punctual for your job. You may not be perfect, nobody is expecting you to be perfect, but at least be punctual, right? In order to win in life, of course we need will and skill. Skill, if you don't have, also you need to have will. Because if you have will, you can learn skill. But if you have skill and you don't have will, what's the use of having skill if you don't have the will to do or learn? So that will also comes under punctuality. So integrity, good values is important. I'll just give you an example of Captain America. Now, when they wanted to give that Captain America the strength, the super strength serum, they didn't give it to the strongest guy so that he becomes even more stronger and will have even stronger. No. When knowledge comes, when power comes, when money comes, that is your true character. Because they chose Steve Rogers, that is because he was not just because he was the weakest, but he was a very good person. When things like that come, goodness also becomes super. So what you grow, what you reap is what you sow. So be very careful of that, because people admire, people want the people who are punctual, not just people who come on time but live up to their words like a real man does. Okay, so punctuality and willingness to learn, we just talked about it. 10, responsibility. Now leadership responsibility, or if you think, okay, if I work here and if I just work for salary and go, that is enough, and stop not taking additional responsibilities, people will notice that. Okay, so try to be responsible. People require leaders, people require um, other people who can uplift them and make a difference and give that push. So people expect you to be responsible. You should be willing to take up new work, take up new responsibilities, right? College may avoid karte ho na atar alla adu, right? So the way you avoid in college, if somebody asks you to come speak, that is the most responsible thing. So if If you use the same attitude in work, understand you're just one firing decision away, because there are 140 crore people in India. There are no 140 crore jobs. So understand you need to, start changing your habits and a positive mindset. I think we've talked about this enough. Correct. So workplace behavior, respect for your team and hierarchy. Understand that. I think you would have already had an idea about how hierarchy works in your colleges. In any place like, let's say, cafe or a mall you go. So understanding that hierarchy, respecting each and everybody, no matter what you feel, right? So that should be there. Adaptability. Now, for the people who don't know what adaptability is, it is being ready for any situation, right? So if you're thrown in water, you need to know how to swim. If you are like what asked to be without water, you need to know how to hydrate yourself, and try to distract yourself from being uh, what do you call, um, being not very good at this thing. It's somehow finding a way, right? Maybe I exaggerated statements, but adaptability is the ability to being able to adjust to any situation. If you go to Orissa, right, there you need to blend with the locals. If you go to Delhi, there those kind of locals you need to blend in. And suppose some there you go, you like some non-veg food, but there's nothing, there's only veg food. You need to be adaptable to that. So being adaptable is not just with respect to food or places, but with respect to anything. Market is up, market is down, uh, you know uh, the motivation is up, motivation is down. Consistency, being adaptable to any situation, that is very much important, right? The next, taking ownership. Taking ownership is taking responsibilities, taking leadership, taking being ready. If something happens, this is not mine, and escaping away. People don't like them, they'll keep them for some while and they'll fire. Taking ownership for your mistakes, taking ownership for your work, and making sure that you solve things well in a good way, that is taking ownership. Correct. And then asking questions when needed. People understand this. When I ask, you have any questions, half the people were looking at each other. Who should I ask the question? Who should I ask the question? Okay, what happens if others? No, but one person asked the question, right? Not the best question, not the worst question, not anything, just a question. Everybody started asking questions like that, because everybody wants change, everybody wants to be that person, but they'll be looking for some leader, some person to wait. Like, why me? No, these are the kind of people who always have a follower mindset, right? um, People understand that if you want to improve in your life, you should be the light which can illuminate the path for others. And most of the people in the world, they'll be looking forward for that. So if you become that person, right, and ask right questions, and make sure you take that ownership, people will going to love you. People are going to make sure that you are always respected and always heard, right? So that is why everybody should know and understand that what is this potential of being a leader, right? So with that, let's talk about this job element analysis. Now, what is job element analysis? It's basically the requirement for any of these things. See, now understand. So now all of these things are there. This element that one person should have in job, starting from programming skills, machine learning fundamentals, then it's handling the data, then building models, tools, frameworks, problem solving, communication skills, learning attitude, ethics and responsibility. Now, these are the parameters that every job element should have. Okay. Now, as you can see, right? So programming skills, what is the minimum requirement to be eligible for job interviews? So the minimum requirement is just for you to be eligible. But if you have to, get a job, and if you have to like see with that also, with the way you carry yourself, your confidence and your problem solving and your attitude will get you a job. But the minimum requirement for you to have find jobs in this particular sectors, right? That is very much important. So if you want to create a difference, and if you want to make good money, and if you want to go to places to make sure that you're doing well, so this high performing requirements are very much required. Okay, so to put in simple words, these are not just skills. These are the layers of how a new employee or a fresher or the next level, I mean the next gen engineer thinks. These are not just skills, these are the layers of thinking. Now the first thing, if you can see, programming is there. So with the programming, now you need to understand, okay, it's coding. So now this is the basic thing that I should know or have, because everything starts with coding. So this is like a building block, correct? So building block. So this is something that you used to build. Okay. So that is something you need to know and have or add. Then after that is machine learning and math. Now machine learning and math is nothing but you understand and you know what you're building. Okay, so now that you know how to build, what to build is the next question. So that is all math and machine learning for you there, right? So that is that. And data, you shape reality. Okay, now you understand what you're building and what are the problems that you can solve uh, through what you're building. That is with the data that you accumulate and the data that you want to create. So that is you shaping the future or reality. That is data. And then models, training models, you measure it or scale it. You add these models to create that intelligence. So that is something that you need. So now you're shaping this reality. You use models, or you use prototypes, or you use a certain creation to create a certain sense of intelligence, right? And after that, tools are nothing but it is used for measurements, right? So or it is used to measure the goal, or it is used to find a way where you can take things from one level to another. That is why you use tools for, correct? Then thinking to solve real world problems. Communication, okay, now you since you've understood all of these things and you know what you're going to do, communication is required for you to make others understand, or make machines understand, or train your models that is going to replace your work, so that you can focus on the next future things and your work can be reduced. Mindset is nothing but you are staying relevant. And ethics is something that you should not break, right? So now let's try to talk one by one. Okay, so I'm sure everybody would have taken this particular screenshot, right? But still, in case if you have not taken, just make sure that you're taking this screenshot. Okay, but yeah, I will go and I will tell things in detail a little bit. Okay, so minimum requirement for you to have for programming is Python basics. Then what kind of libraries is NumPy, Pandas, right? So that is very much required. You need to know how to write clean programming, a readable code where if others are able to judge it, right? So make sure that code is easily readable, and it can give access for the operations that you're trying to build, right? So if you want to perform high in programming, right, you need to know functions, reusable blocks, and all the modular codes, right? You need to have optimization, so speed and memory both, Okay, so now optimization is required. Optimization is nothing but how well you perfect your code, right? How well people can find your code also. So for that, you need to have good speed in coding and good memory so that you can come back to it. So this is a symbol, and this is a sign of a high performer. And some deep learning abilities, and some deep learning libs like TensorFlow, PyTorch. So if you do that, you go from code that works to code that scales and survives. Correct. So that is the best part about programming. And let's understand about machine learning fundamentals. Machine learning fundamentals, what are some of the minimum things you need to have? Everybody knows regression and classification, and some basic algorithm like linear regression, logistic regression. These are some of the minimum fundamentals that everybody needs to have or to get started with machine fundamentals, right? Everybody agrees? Yeah. But if you want to be a high performer in this, right? So one of the very good performers this way. So you need to have bias versus variance understanding, overfitting versus underfitting, because that is the right balance, right? So understanding how overfitting and underfitting works, and then hyper parameter tuning and model selection. This is some of the best high performance. So understanding these opposite flows will make you understand where you are in that spectrum. So make sure you are doing this. Okay, so yeah, so that's about it. And then data handling, if you talk about data handling, right? So minimum requirements is cleaning missing values, right? Finding missing values that way, and cleaning it, and making sure you add the right appropriate data if it is required. Basic pre-processing knowledge, that much is required. And if you're talking about high performer, like feature engineering, right? So this is where great things happen. Feature engineering is something that everybody has to look forward to, because right now it's uh, communication and machines and artificial intelligence, permutations, combinations, and math. So you need to know how well you handle data. So make sure that you are knowing good amount of knowledge for this. And then yeah, handling large data sets effortlessly. These are some of the high performing data you know science, right? So you're not just cleaning data, but you're shaping data. Understand the difference. Then model building, knowing how to train basic models is required, right? So now that you have created it, you need to know how well you elevate from this point to another. Then evaluate accurately, right? So this is some of the minimums in model building for high performers, right? So you need to compare multiple modules, multiple models, and then you need to improve your optimization performance, use pipelines, and plan in advance. And yeah, so if you are like a minimum performer, you would be thinking of somehow creating a model. But you think if you know this part better, you don't just thinking about creating one model, but you think about creating model ecosystem, like, and how this ecosystem start to think. You create one model, many models create ecosystem, and you create ecosystem that start thinking. That is next level. So it might be more or complicated, but trust me, once you get started, I think you'll get a fair idea of how things can go later. So start small. These might seem a lot to do, because if you feel like doing everything today, it is definitely a lot. But start, right? So the more you do, the lesser stress you feel about it. So just go for it, act on it. So tools and frameworks, okay. So knowing some basic awareness about Jupyter Notebook and scikit-learn. So this is a minimum requirement, and for maximum performance, you need to know TensorFlow and PyTorch. Then standard APIs, and their deployment is something that you need to know. So you can go from experimenting to building great usable model systems if you know good tools and frameworks. Okay, then problem solving is the most important, right? So whether it is in technical or whether it is in non-technical, whether it is in engineering, whether it is in just solving a puzzle, or solving higher competitive exam papers, problem solving is very much important. You understand the problem, you solve the structures, and then yeah, so great problem solver. He just doesn't understand and solve problems, but he breaks vague problems, into steps. This complex patterns, if he or she finds them, they know that okay, everything is just a challenge that we have to overcome. So they don't see problems as problems. They see problems as a challenge that they can work. Okay, so they approach different ways to solve it. That is a high problem solving performer. And they often ask themselves questions like, what is the real problem, what data do I need, what model fits this reality, right? So they shift from finding answers to questioning. Now everybody started with getting answers for your questions. Now you'll understand it's not just about finding the right answer for the question. Now I need to start asking better questions. So I think that is the kind of maturity you get when you are good at problem solving. Communication minimum, I think everybody knows, trying to explain basic idea and to present simple things, right? Communication is required. High performer, right? uh, in communication, he not just knows communication, but he knows how to explain it to the people who don't know that technical topics also, right? A person who can able to create stories with visual aids, right? So just communicating and reporting and letting people know to influencing their decision, I think that is where communication can go well. Learning attitude, I think basic awareness that everything is changing, everything is increasing. So no amount of one perfect certificate can make us the most superior one. Doesn't work like that. So a person who knows that this world is constantly developing at the rate of 1 day, 1 hour, you should always be careful and upskill yourself. So that is a learning attitude you need to have, and you should know how to learn anything new and set your mind to it, right? Then after that, ethics and responsibility, right? So now the biggest transformation that you would be doing for yourself is going from a student to a professional, right? So in this step, you need to understand why etiquette and ethics matter, right? So understanding data privacies, right? Understanding things, like, let us say, where I should give how much amount of data. That is also very important, and knowing these things will definitely help us. Then understand bias in AI, build and responsible and fair models, right? So now that you have knowledge, now that you know how to use cyber security tools, what you do with it is more important than how much you know about it. Because a person with good intentions can go great at this. Person with ill intention can change everything that is going to happen. So be very much aware. If you have not taken screenshot of these things, make sure you take it so that you know where to start, right? So Pallavi says students are using AI tools like Claude, GPT, GitHub, Copilot, and Cursor for coding. I have small scenario based questions. Suppose a student has learned a tech stack but hasn't built a full project completely on their own. Okay, project is made using AI tools, the idea is original, and they understand everything and can modify it. Okay. Second project is made from a YouTube tutorial, maybe with a few changes, but again, they understand full logic. In both cases, they can explain their work and confidently put. So is using AI like this actually a good way to learn? Is it okay to include these kinds of projects in a resume? Okay. And in real jobs, do people really build everything from scratch, or do they also depend on tools from reference? Very good set of questions, Pallavi. So thank you. I'll answer everything one by one. Suppose a student hasn't learned a tech stack but hasn't learned the full project, and what they do is they made it using AI tools. The idea is original and they understand everything and they can modify it. See, now a person who has done it with AI and he just knows basic knowledge, like let's say, as you mentioned, they have learned one tech stack but they don't know everything in deep. Now, the person who did this one, his goal was to clear or somehow get an interview, or somehow get a presentation, or somehow get a job, or show them, and get a signature. So their goal was only that much. Now, that way, there's a 50 or even lesser chances if that person can even clear it or not. They can somehow do it, but what are they going to do there? Now, people not trying to understand or do the most basic thing, like you mentioned, right? Watching YouTube tutorials, make maybe with few changes, but again, they understand the full logic. In both cases, they can explain their work confidently. Now, they're able to do that because because they did the simple work, that is foundation. They did the simple thing, that is understanding the bare minimum concepts. Many people avoid it, right? Sometimes their luck is good, they'll get selected, they'll get somehow done. But the real problem is when they face the real world scenarios where they're not able to code. Now AI, this thing and things, they are self coding right now, and are using that to find bugs and everything. But if AI itself, the AI model itself that is doing all of this, that gets repaired, that gets a virus, that gets an attack, now which AI will you go behind to solve all of this? For this you need real coders, right? So you need to know and understand that, okay, you need to know how to do it from the scratch, because you may get passed by certain judgments now, but that is going to eat you up later, right? So don't go behind shortcuts. Use shortcuts as a tool but not as a solution, right? In real jobs, people build everything from the scratch. Of course they do. They do build from the scratch. And even if they didn't, they know where to make changes, because they are professional at it. So understand, building from scratch is an underrated, unexplored territory for many people. So do it from the scratch. AI is a tool which can either make people's lives or break people's lives. If you try to believe that AI is the solution for everything, then no, it is not a right way to learn. But if you believe that, okay, you have ideas, you have visions, now you're using AI to reduce a time somewhere, and you are utilizing a much more visionary habit of taking things next level of your prototype or your models or your project or anything that you plan to do. That way AI is good, because AI that way is taking the best decisions based on the permutations and combinations that it is choosing, that it is learning, right? So the better you communicate, the better the result that you would be getting, right? So in that way, where it can reduce these mundane, like counting or sorting or organizing thing, that where AI is very useful, very helpful also. But a person who knows to still do it manually, understands the job even better, that person will be required. If anybody could do it, everybody would get the job, right? Why would only the real coders get it? So it is important for you to have it, and you need to have conscious bias of how, until where, and till which extent I need to use the AI. That is very much important. Don't lose yourself in this process. Make sure that you So, Pallavi, I hope your questions were answered. Did I miss any of the question? Is it okay to include these things in resume? You can include it, right? But do understand that just if you include it, that doesn't mean you get selected in a job. Now that you have included it, they'll ask the questions even deeper now about it. So they'll understand where is your skill gap. So when you add things in the resume, understand that those things will definitely be questioned. So if you're prepared for that scenario, go ahead and do add it. If you know both the ways, and if you can understand the full logic, add it. Okay, so it's completely fine that way. So I hope I answered your questions, Pallavi. Yes or no? Okay, great. Thank you. So yeah, so why do HR do it? Okay, if you ask me, right, to define clear job roles and responsibilities, to hire the right candidate, to design training programs, to evaluate, uh, you know, employee performances. Now, this is, what HRs are looking forward. They want to, clearly define the new freshers' job roles and responsibilities. Their job is to, hire the right candidates. So they design and do training programs for people, of course, with the help of subject matter experts. And they set performance expectations. So this is to evaluate and assess a person on a human level. So that is their job. That's why they're called a human resource manager or human resource associate, right? So to find your place right now, where do your skills, passions, and the world's needs intersect? Now that is something that you need to ask. Okay. Now now many people have understood that, sir, we understood your idea. We have to be very good at one skill, and we have to very be very what do you call, conscious about the choices that we make. But how do we make that choice? How do we know what is good for us? So it's this way. First, understand what are the current job trends, what are the new up to date job trends that are there. Okay, and understand where do you stand. So that is called skill gap analysis. Okay, so if you want to be, let us say for example, a good cricketer, right? So you would take the resume of one of the best performing cricketers like Sachin or Kohli or Rohit Sharma or anybody. You take them and you check the skill gap. If I have to become one of the greats like this, I need to check what they used to do when they were in my age. And finding that skill gap is something which is very much necessary. And then exploring job portals, right? So job portals is very much important, like LinkedIn, Internshala, Naukri jobs, Indeed, and whatnot. So that is job portal. But there is something like company website. So if you Google, you find top 100 companies in this field, or top 100 companies in my area, or whatever search filter. If you're adding top cybersecurity companies near my place, Google will search and give you. But you need to go to each and one of their websites and find out careers available. So that is also another place where you can find jobs, right? So applying for them, understanding job descriptions, right? So if you understand the job description well, uh, you will be able to understand what a company expects from an employee, and you'll be able to cater to those requirements. If you don't, you'll figure out what skills you require, you start upskilling, and then be ready for that kind of jobs. And certifications, you already know that things are well that way. Okay, and yes, now then, so what I would want any everybody to do or even practice is try to do the SWOT analysis of yourself. So how many of you know what SWOT analysis is? Give a thumbs up. How many of you have heard of it? What SWOT analysis is? Any idea? Just I saw only one or two people put a thumbs up. What about others? Okay, some people do know about it. Not bad. Okay, so for the people who don't know about it, this is very important. SWOT, that is strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So if you see this as okay, this is some syllabus in my college. That's how I know about it. Uh, Good, but this will not work if you do not write, because people use this technique in career counseling, people use it in psychology, people use it in finding market trends, people use it in decision making, smart people use this everywhere, and they know for a matter of fact that this works only when you write and connect dots and create a mind map of it. So if you feel like okay, you don't know which skill you have to choose, if you start SWOT analysis and use the help of GPT. But before you even feed that information to GPT, you need to get your personal goals, trends, weaknesses, areas of improvements from a subject matter expert and from your friends and family for better and accurate results. Okay, so that is something that is very much important and required. And these are some of the job portals that you require. Now for example, like there are job opportunities everywhere, so you need to find out how do you do it. One is job portals like this: Indeed, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, Naukri, Monster Jobs, Apna Hire. Then there is Internshala. There are many places where you can choose different and potential career paths that will align with your skills and interests. Then market research. Start doing market research. They offer insights into job market trends, and including even highly demanded skills and salary ranges, company reviews, and these kind of knowledge can definitely improve your skills. Okay, so make sure you do that market research. Start following influencers who are in that particular field, right? So yeah. So, what could be a good answer when someone asks, "What are your weaknesses in a job interview?" Okay, when the most, if I was an interviewer or any good interviewers, what do they expect from this answer is your self awareness and your authenticity, your honesty, and your attitude. These are the things that they'll check in this question. Okay. Now, they don't understand when you're asked this question, you should not be over honest also, and you should not be very mysterious also. If you start ending up giving answers like, I don't have any weakness, I'm not able to find a good weakness, or I'm not able to think of any. If you answer some more smart questions like this, gone your job. Okay. At the same time, you cannot answer anything also, anything that comes to your mind also. I have taken, interviews. I've asked what are your weaknesses. People are telling their weakness is time management. I'm like, how can time management, be weakness and you can expect a job from there? Time management is a bare minimum that they'll expect you to start working with. And if you tell that is only your weakness, do you think they'll hire you? No. And so what can you tell? See, now when you tell about these things, tell about one technical topic that you find difficulty in, or find one technical topic that you're not very good at, and tell that. Be honest. But when you do tell it, they check your attitude. Okay, now that you have mentioned one of your weaknesses, that is fine, that is good. But what are you doing about that weakness? Correct. So you need to give a learning plan. For example, you can say, sir, my strength is data science, but learning because I'm finding it new, and I'm still learning it, and the Nothing to worry because I've already enrolled myself to this course, so this will no longer be my weakness. So that's how you answer, right? So what are your salary expectations? Sometimes interviewers ask, what are your salary expectations? So they won't ask sometimes, they'll ask only when you're selected. So that one they won't ask in that they won't ask in your technical interview or until you they feel that you're eligible. So I'll talk about this thing in my last class because that is something that HRs will ask after your job is selected. They won't simply ask like that, what are your salary expectations? So don't worry about it for now. Okay. Then skill assessment and personal branding is something that you all need to, do and enter. Okay. So now I'll, so anyhow, I think we discussed a lot today, right? I actually wanted to make you guys play an activity, but since it is our first class, so we have set one atmosphere and we have discussed one starting point to do. But for sure, we will get started. I think in next class, I will start off with online presence and resume, right? So today, what I would want everybody is to explore these 2 to 3 resume building websites. That is novoresume.com or Canva or overleaf.com, resume craft, resume giants. There are a lot of websites, right? So I would want you to explore these kind of websites to build your resumes. So start building your resumes from today. And when you start building your resumes from today, I think by day after tomorrow we have another class. I'll start giving feedback for each of you and tell you what is required, what is not, and things like that. Okay. So we'll talk about that and we'll discuss about LinkedIn also. And yeah, so to give a little bit info about how or what you should do. First, if you're getting a job, analyze the job description. Many people, have they think one common resume is required and it is enough until they get a job anywhere that they're applying for. That is where they make mistakes. So once some place that they require you to have what do you call some places they might require you to have strong front end development skills. Some other job they require you to have, let's say, database management systems. Now how can the resume be same for both? Your resume should slightly change here and there based on the job description that you are applying for. That is when your resume will be selected. And after that, understanding what they require and making sure you revise those topics and skills, that is very much important. Second one, preparing a strong application. Having a good application is important, and preparing for interviews. We'll be discussing about these things. So I'm just giving you a basic knowledge about it. Now, you understand job description. Now there are a lot of let's say job descriptions available. So take any one of them, check what is the title, check what are the responsibilities, what are the requirements, what are roles and responsibilities, and that then you try to um, find what is your skill gap. So understand that much, that one. Okay. So you need to ask yourself things like, will the job summary tell the job role's purpose? What skills and qualifications stood out? That is also very much important, right? Then summary and things. If you know that much, it is very much important. Okay. And then yeah, so that is about job descriptions, knowing about certifications. So we've covered basic, finding job and opportunities. So if you want to take a closer look at certification, understand the importance of preparing yourself in the world of work, because when you're going as a fresher, you don't have work experience. The best things that you can flaunt is your skills and knowledge. Certificates are like identity, it's like other card for your knowledge. So certification is very much important, right? So it not only helps us improve our skills and knowledge, gives us this credibility in professional qualifications, it improves our job prospects and demonstrates continuous learning that we all know. Choosing right certification is important because it aligns with our industry, what industry that we plan to work for, and proper relevance, and making sure that you have career goals, and that is something that you already know why certification is important that way, right? So if you want to take a screenshot of this, right, so these are the basic certifications in this field, right? Whether it is IT, it is this project management, you need to know PMP and Prince 2, data science, these are some of the basic certifications you can get from. And cybersecurity, CISSP, CH, CompTIA, and Security Plus. For sales, it is CSP, HubSpots, and software certifications. And these are some of the upskilling portals that you can use, right? So that is, you can take a quick screenshot of this as well: Coursera, edX, LinkedIn Learning, Allison, Future Learn, Khan Academy. These are the main sites, but there are a lot of other sites also. Okay, so apart from that, let's try to revise what we learned today. Okay, so strong fundamentals is required with practical application to matter more than the theory alone. Okay, so if you feel like, okay, it's not like test or some random projects you guys completed, but it's about what kind of problem you solved and how can I use this project knowledge in my real life, that is required. Communication, teamwork, and adaptability are as equal and as important as learning any technical skill, right? So knowing just technical knowledge isn't enough, but how you use it, how ethically you use it, and how do you use it to help others, that is very much important. Professional attitude, discipline, and willingness to learn is highly valued. And companies expect us to have problem solving skills, and they expect us to take ownership for the work that we do, that is taking responsibility, right? And continuous upskilling, right? So that is very much required and important. Okay, so that's about today's thing. So this is a basic thing that we covered, right? So in the next class, we would be talking about resumes, LinkedIn interview questions, what interview questions, what all can we expect, everything that we'll be learning. So that is something that we will be talking about. So can we have your LinkedIn profile, sir? We would be grateful if we can connect and ask queries with you time to time. Absolutely. So I can share you my LinkedIn profile. So you all can find me on LinkedIn, name Akarsh Ramachandra. Okay, so I'll just add that link here just in case you would find it helpful. But nevertheless, we will be meeting for another few sessions also. Okay, so definitely we will be talking more about our work, and what our next gen is up to, and we'll go detail on things. Okay, so I think that's it for now. So we will take see, just for the sake of documentation, we'll take a group picture, right? So can you all come in front of your cameras? We'll take a screenshot and celebrate and mark this memory of learning, right? So can you all just come in front of your cameras? We'll take a quick screenshot. So we'll just save this as a memory of learning, right? So when you guys come in front of your cameras, we'll be able to click a group picture. So this is just for like a minute or two. After that, you guys can go back to uh, your routine, right? But we'll take a quick picture if you guys don't mind. Can you guys come in front of the cameras? We'll take a quick picture that way. Are you all here? Okay. So yes, can you all? Yeah, thank you. So others also, please turn on your cameras. We'll take a quick, picture, and after that, I think we can be done this way. Yeah. So I see a lot of people coming sessions. Is definitely more activities, more intel, and much deeper way of solving, our problems in the most effective way possible. That is something that we'll be discussing. But until then, I wish everybody a lovely evening. All right. So thank you so much for participating today. So I see you all day after tomorrow. Thank you, everyone.